Hello, everybody, and welcome back to all of my amazing followers. My name is Amanda Sweet, and I am the Creative Fairy Godmother. This is a very special day because we've been doing Mentor Me on Instagram for, I want to say, about 20 episodes now, and this is our very first time going on StreamYard, going on Facebook, and going on YouTube. So welcome to everyone. I'm very excited to do this for many, many reasons. Last week, I had an amazing interview with a great friend of mine, Tiana, and Instagram just pooped out on me. I lost the whole interview, and I've been hoping and trying to pivot, using the trendy word today, pivot my video series onto Instagram or onto Facebook, onto YouTube. So here we are. Under the circumstances of the internet not being good, we are in a new, beautiful situation. So for those of you that don't know me or haven't seen me do an interview before, I call myself the Creative Fairy Godmother. I love helping people make their dreams come true through activities, events, creative direction. And I like to connect people. So this whole video series is to connect amazing people to people that could be a mentor, to great advice, to somebody that could just expand your network in a beautiful way. So that's what we're doing here today on Mentor Me. And I have a very awesome guest joining us. Glenn Ambrose is actually one of my very first life coaches. He is a life coach, a spiritual teacher, an author, a podcaster, a YouTuber. He's just a doer of all things and somebody that I feel is going to teach you a lot. So without further ado, here we go, Glenn Ambrose. Hello.
Hello, Amanda.
How are you?
I am wonderful.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much. You're the reason why I'm on StreamYard. So first of all, thanks for that.
Yeah, and that's my producer. My producer stumbled across it, and he's been turning a lot of people onto it, and it's a great platform. So
it's been so easy, and it was like, why didn't I think of doing this sooner? I don't know. But here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So before we go too crazy into just chit-chatting, tell the people who you are.
Oof, like you said, I kind of do a little bit of everything. I mean, I'm a life coach and a spiritual teacher. I guess I consider myself spiritual teacher primarily. Things evolve as you go, and I get into life coaching, and I found that what I knew spiritually could help people in lots of different areas of their lives. So I kind of went with the life coach thing, and then now it's kind of come full circle where it's like, yeah, it does work in all areas of life, but it's to really get down to the core of things, which is the most helpful. I just like diving right into the spiritual end of it. So I kind of lean in that direction, but I have my own podcast, Life Lessons and Laughter with Glenn Ambrose. And
great. I listen to it all the time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I found you on Insight Timer, I think. That's how I found you originally.
Yeah. A lot of people found me on Insight Timer originally, and it's taken off. And then now, when I used to live in Rhode Island, and my producer and I would record in person. When I moved to Florida, he was staying in Rhode Island, so we had to learn how to record long distance. So we ended up using Zoom, which turned everything video.
Right.
So a couple of years ago, all my podcasts are now available on audio and video. And then we went to StreamYard, I don't know, a year ago or something like that when he found it. So
nice.
But yeah, it's all video and audio, and I've got a book out now. And
tell us about the book. I want to know.
The book is called Down to Earth, because that's kind of how all my teachings are. And it's called Down to Earth, the Spiritual Beings. I haven't looked at it. I'm going to cheat, right?
It's okay. Cheat away.
It's the Spiritual Beings Guide to a Happy Human Experience. It's too long.
I love it. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, that's it.
Very nice.
So yeah, it's kind of it was an amazing experience getting the book out. It was a long time coming. And last year I just decided it was time. And it's getting really good feedback. And, it was a wonderful experience. So
what was that like, writing a book? Tell us about that.
That was an adventure. I'll tell you. Yeah, that was an adventure. And I learned a lot. I kind of had gotten to the place in my career where I was comfortable doing what I did. And that stretched me and really made me grow. And next time I write a book, it's going to look a little different.
Oh, yeah?
As far as how I processed it, because I was learning as I went,
Well, sometimes you got to just do it. So what would you do differently? For those of us that are thinking about writing a book, what would you do differently at the start?
Well, I think just knowing what you do, what it consists of. Like, I didn't understand how much editing went into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of editing,
right.
And just it's just the silly stuff. So like I think the best way to express it is, just to say what I experienced. So I decided to write and I had no idea what I was doing. None. I didn't know. I've had so much information flowing through me over the years. Like,
sure.
What am I going to pick? So I just tried taking blogs that I had written and just kind of copy and pasting them, and then rearranging them to get some sort of order and flow of information where you kind of started somewhere, you went through and ended somewhere. And so I played around with that, and then I expanded on the blogs and I put them together a little, and I was like, boy, really patting myself on the back. This was in the beginning of 2019. And I'm like, wow, I think I pretty much have it. And it wasn't formatted or anything yet. And I formatted it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I'm halfway done.
Right.
Whoops, my bad.
Yeah. Oopsie.
So then I'm like, then I kind of froze a little. I don't like doing things when I'm really uncomfortable. I wanted to make the book with the energy of love.
Sure.
So I didn't want to just do it to do it. So I kind of gave myself a little leeway, which I took full advantage of and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then, I think it was like August, September starts rolling around, and I had it in my head that it was coming out in 2019. I'm like, dude, you better get rolling.
Right.
So I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I cleared my schedule for a week, and I just said, I'm just gonna go at this and see what happens. So I started writing, and Monday went really well, and I'm like, wow, I could finish this in a reasonable amount of time. Tuesday went better. Wednesday went better. Thursday, I had a meltdown, and
it's always Thursday.
And I just locked up. And I didn't write anything. And Friday morning came, and I said, okay, are you going to let this stop you, or are you going to get back on the horse here? And I got back on the horse, and I wrote Friday all day. And then I was looking, and I was like, dude, you did it. Like, you basically finished you basically wrote half a book in 4 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got another day, maybe 2 or 3, but I can finish that out recently. And then soon. And then Saturday, I just said, well, I'll chip away at it. I was in the flow. I ended up writing all day Saturday and finishing it. So I wrote the whole second half in 5 days.
Holy cow. I mean, you were just waiting till you were ready to execute. That's what we like to say, but that's okay. So that's a part for me where I struggle is, I have crazy amount of energy. I'll be totally into this project and I'll be at it gung-ho all the way. And then I hit that block and I give myself some grace, sometimes a little bit too much grace. And I know that a lot of us do this and we just don't get back up on the horse. What advice do you have for people that are at that point where they have to get back on the horse, but it's a daunting task? So how can you help us?
It's really about slowing down and removing the pressure. Like that, the reason that there's a block is because there's pressure built up.
Mm.
So when, first thing we have to do is get rid of that pressure, and then you can come to whatever conclusion you want to come to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a step that most people don't do. So the first thing you need to do is just go, okay, I'm going to take myself off the hook. I don't have to write this book. I don't have to ever write this book.
Right.
I don't have to finish it in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to finish it in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter when it comes out. That, I don't have a contract signed with somebody that,
Right.
The only deadline, the one I'm putting on myself.
Right.
So I'm like, it's once you understand that you have the freedom of choice, then you don't feel the pressure.
Mm.
So it's like, no, I can choose to do this, or I can choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that pressure is off and you're like, oh, okay, I don't, like, your subconscious is going like, oh, I don't have to do this. No, you don't have to do anything. You can sit in the corner and drool on yourself for the next 20 years.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to do anything. Like, there's consequences, of course, but you don't have to.
Sure.
And it's like, okay. Oh, all right, good. Now all of a sudden I feel like I'm in charge and I have my freedom back. And I'm not being made to do something. See, I'm so rebellious. I will rebel against myself if I'm not careful.
Right.
And most people have an edge like that. I think I have a strong edge like that, but I think most people can identify with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's kind of where a lot of the people, at least on Instagram, they're all kind of like, we have ideas, we don't know how to execute. There's all this pressure. With a lot of millennials, I notice there's a lot of pressure to be something, to be all the things, to be, good on social media, to have a certain presence, to be like an excelling, award-winning, like anything, to have all of these streams of income. We're looking at people on Instagram and comparing ourselves. So sometimes I feel like there's this overwhelming amount of pressure to be something that, we're not there yet. So what was your experience like? It sounds like you said you had a little bit of a rebellious streak. Have you always been a spiritual teacher? Like, how did you get to this place in your life?
No, I wasn't always a spiritual teacher. I was a nut job, man. I was like, I mean, when I was 15, I went to a party with some friends and tried some booze and fell in love. I was just like, and I partied my ass off for many years and had all kinds of crazy fun times and was pretty nutty and lived a very dysfunctional life and really never got anywhere or accomplished anything, and then by the time I turned 30, it was starting, like when I was turning 30, it was hard for me to not see that I was a loser. Like when you're in your 20s, you're like, I'm in my 20s.
I'm great. Yeah.
Great. What do you expect from me? I'm in my 20s.
Right.
I'm having a good time. Leave me alone.
Right.
Then you get into your 30s, you start feeling older and you start seeing everybody around you that's actually living a productive life, start achieving and acquiring things. And you're like,
how'd they do that?
I knew how they did it. I was just like, it's starting to get hard to deny, rationalize that to myself, that not doing anything with my life is okay. Like it's starting to become pretty apparent that I'm a loser. So that was kind of like the beginning of my end. I started unraveling when I was 30. I met my ex-wife, got married very quickly, had a child, bought a house, pulled myself together, bought a house, did everything I was supposed to. And then I was more miserable than when I was drinking all the time and dysfunctional. And I was like, now I'm really hosed because like,
now you have responsibilities, real ones.
well, and it's not only that, it was an internal screwed because like externally, I had responsibilities, but internally I didn't know what to do because if you fail and you're a loser, I mean, everybody knows how to handle failure. You pick yourself back up, you make a push, all that. You do stuff and you try to do it differently. That's how you handle failure. But how do you handle success? Like I succeeded and there was no happiness there. So there was no happiness when I did what was wrong. and there was no happiness when I did what was right.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought, right. So I
Right.
had just tried both options and I'm miserable in both of these. That
Mhm.
was, I mean, overwhelmingly depressing. And, you
Sure.
know, so that started my next stage of unraveling. And I left my wife and she moved with my son up to Rhode Island. This was in Florida. And I just dove into alcoholism, went back to some drugs,
Mhm.
and just unraveled for 2 years.
Yeah.
Tried going up north, ended up back down. And then I was suicidal and it was the end. And then
Yeah.
I had to make a decision whether I was going to end it or if I was going to give sobriety a shot. And it was a really tough decision.
How did you make that? What did that part look like? That decision-making part?
Well, really what it came down to is I sat on my bed for like 4 hours trying to figure it out because I was all alone in the house and my friend that I was staying with had a gun in the next room. So it was, and I had,
decision.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I mean, this was really happening. I mean, I was the only one with the combination. I could get to it and it was right in the next room. So I sat there for 3 or 4 hours trying to figure out what to do. And what I boiled it down to was I definitely wanted to die. And I didn't think that sobriety or anything else was going to work. But when it really came time, I had attempted suicide a couple times, kind of haphazardly over the years, over the 20 years prior to that. So I kind of knew that this was the real deal. And I wasn't interested in crying wolf. I really wanted it. So I was like, what does it take to really kill yourself? And when you dive deep into that, you have to be really in a dark place. And personally, for me, what I came to was, I don't know if there's a heaven, a hell, God. I don't know. I mean, at that point, I figured if there's a God, the only thing I know is that he hates me.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. There's a part of me that has a question mark around that. And I'm pretty sure if I kill myself, I'm going to hell. And as much as this sucks, there's a 50-50 shot that that's worse.
Right.
So before I do this, I need a clean conscience, knowing, like, as an alcoholic, you really need to have a clear conscience to destroy your life year after year after year after year and hurt people around you. So you have to rationalize real well. So I had to be able to have a clear conscience, knowing there was no other way and I have to go kill myself. Otherwise, I knew I wasn't going to have the courage to do it. So I said, I'll give the AA thing a try because I had been exposed to it already.
Sure.
And I was like, I don't think it works, but I'll give it a shot. And if it works, cool. Doubt it will, but cool. If it doesn't, then I'll have the clear conscience and then I can go kill myself.
Right. You're at the same point.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, cool. You know, it's kind of a win-win for where I was. You know, I either feel better or I get to die peacefully. So, like, you know, this was the rationale at that time.
Right. Right. And that's a real place that some people are in.
Right.
You know?
And you know what was so interesting about it in my journey is that helped me dramatically. You know, being suicidal and trying to do what it takes so you can go kill yourself sounds like a really warped motivation. But it kind of almost it really helped dramatically. It almost like backfired and I was able to use it as fuel. Yeah. And because when I was in AA, a couple things that I had heard was half measures avail us nothing. So that means if you do it halfway, if you give this program 50%, you don't get 50% of the results. You get zero. If you do this program 90% of the way, you don't get 90% of the results. You get zero. Half measures avail us nothing, nada. So I had that in my head. So I was like, and I'm kind of an extremist anyway. So I was like, all right, well, I need to give this thing 110%. Because otherwise, if I give it even 95%, I'm going to go through the whole damn program. It's not going to work. I'm going to go get ready to kill myself. And I'm not going to have the clean conscience that I need to do it because I know that I only gave it 95% again. And then I'm going to have to start the whole damn process over. And I don't have the energy for that.
Right.
Like,
Wow. Wow.
so what that did was every time I hit a sticking point where everything inside of me didn't want to do it, didn't want to do the next step, didn't want to do the next right thing, didn't want to do whatever this program required of me, I went, Glenn, do it 110%, because if you don't, the whole cycle is going to start over, and you don't have the energy for that. And it really motivated me. So I gave 110% to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it also said, you will be amazed before you're halfway through. And there's 12 steps. And after I took my 5th, the doors started blowing open.
Nice.
And I just had spiritual awakening after spiritual awakening after spiritual awakening, and just everything blew open. And in 3 months, my entire world spun around on a dime.
Wow.
And I actually understood universal law and how life worked. It was like, people saw it. Like, I remember one time I walked into a meeting, and it was a guy it was a huge room, this big cafeteria, and he was way on the other side. And I walked in, and I was standing there talking to somebody, and somebody else was talking to somebody, and our eyes met, and he was like, what the heck? And he walks all the way over, and he goes, what happened to you? Like, what? And he's like, as soon as you stepped in that doorway, this whole place lit up. And this dude was not spiritual.
But he could feel you.
He was a very negative dude, but and he wasn't the only one. People used to tell me that daily. They're like, I just walk in, I'd be like, hey, what's up? And they're like, what happened to you?
You're alive. You were alive. You know,
What?
I mean, you went from like, you know, being ready to make that decision to turn it all off to like living a real life. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I want to know, for those of us that are feeling, you know, we're very isolated. There's a lot of high tension. There's a lot of things happening in the world that could cause aggressive depression and anxiety and things like that. For someone that's in a similar place or somewhere around where you were, and that doesn't have that, like, I guess maybe not so extreme of a situation.
Right.
What, you know, other than going to AA or getting clean, what kind of advice do you have for people that are in that situation? What could they do?
Yeah, it's your own version of, you know, the 12 steps are there to induce a spiritual awakening. A lot of people don't know that. That's the purpose of them. So that's one path. But there's many paths to the same shore. You know, there's many boats to the same shore. There's many paths to the same, you know, top of the mountain. You can go. There's as many paths. I have this actually tattooed right here. This it's Arabic calligraphy, and it says there's as many paths as souls on earth. You know, and that's what there is. So you can do it your own way. And you know, one thing. Like depression is non-movement. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Is because, you know, a lot of people, you know, you see anger and you're like, oh, anger is dangerous. Anger is actually a higher vibration than depression. Because like there's a scale of vibration and scale of emotions, and starting from the bottom, the lowest level is depression, and it goes up. Eventually you get to anger, and then shortly after anger you actually start getting into higher vibrations, like more loving vibrations, positive vibrations. So the reason anger is so high is because sometimes it induces movement.
Interesting.
Sometimes it's not really a healthy movement, right? You know, and sometimes there's consequences and people get hurt, but it induces movement. And when you move, that can push you into another thing. And that's why depression is so dangerous and it's so low, because it's non-movement. We are not meant as beings to be still. The universe is expanding. The world is spinning. We are growing. We are expanding. We have to move. There's a flow of life force that flows through us. And if we're just sitting there, there is 0 people on the planet that can be happy sitting on the couch 7 days a week eating bonbons. It can't happen.
Yeah.
You know? And everybody has this fantasy that they're going to be happy when they retire. No. And suicide rates go up when people retire. So it's because they're still. You know, they lost their purpose to get up and move. So move. So I think, you know, to answer your question is when you're stuck like that, you can't think yourself into better acting. You have to act yourself into better thinking. Because usually we sit around and we go, well, you know, I'll know when it's time to do something.
Right. Like think.
Yeah. No, you won't. No, you're sitting on your ass. Why do you think you're going to suddenly know? Like, you know, like, oh, it'll feel right. No, it's not. You're stuck.
Right.
So staying stuck feels right. That's why you're stuck.
Right.
You know? Like,
Right.
So, you know, when you're just stuck, a lot of times it's just movement. You know, just take movement, act. And it doesn't really even matter what you do. It's just to induce movement so you can start doing, and then all of a sudden you feed off of that. Right. And it's like, oh, you know, I'll put the other thing is don't make things too big. So like, let's say your movement is going to be like, I'm going to go for a walk. And you go, but you're stuck. So you're sitting there and you're going, I don't want to go for a walk today. Yeah. The weather's getting cold. I don't want to.
Groaning the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just want, so you don't go for the walk. Well, the reason you didn't go for the walk was because the walk was too big. Overwhelmment just means something is too big. And usually we get into the argument in our head. We go, well, I should be able to just go for a walk. Well, yeah, but you can't. Right. Because you didn't. Right. Yeah, but I should be able to. I mean, really, I should be able to. Any human being should just be able to go for a walk. So, and then we punish ourselves and talk negatively about ourselves, which gets us even more stuck. Right. And then we sit there on the couch waiting for us to do what we should. Right. Waiting for some angel to come down and lift us up. You know, until it feels right to go for a walk. Right. Well, just chop it down into smaller pieces. You know, you don't feel like you can get up and go for a walk. That's too daunting a task. Okay, fine. No judgment. Right. So can you walk over to your sneakers and put them in front of the couch where you would sit to put them on if you were going for a walk? Could you do that? Yeah. Okay, then do that. And then when you do that, that's a success. You did something. Right. Win. Doesn't matter how small. Cool. All right. I did that. Good. Yay me. Do you feel like doing something else? Nope. Okay. Cool. That's good for today. Yeah. Tomorrow you bring the socks down from upstairs. Right. You know, it doesn't matter how small the steps are, because what happens is if you take tiny, tiny, tiny steps over 7 days, the 8th day you walk. Right. If you sit on the couch saying, I should be able to handle just getting up and going for a walk, you wake up 2 months later and you haven't done a damn thing. Right. So don't worry about how big the sizes of the pieces are. Just find the tiniest little piece that's manageable for you and do that. And then pat yourself on the back for the success and then feed off that success. Right. Because it leads to the next one. One thing that I've learned from doing these interviews that every single person has said is do it. Do it. Whatever the thing is, just do it. And you'll learn along the way. You'll figure things out. You'll pick up things. You'll put stuff back. You'll scrap it and start something different. But if you never do it, do the thing that you said you want to do or the dream that you have, then you'll never know if it's right for you or if it's not right for you, or you'll never know how to make it work. You can't just, I think one thing that I learned from you. So I remember when we first started talking, my goal was to change the world. And you were like, that's too big. You'll never be able to do that because it's so big of a task,
because I was very overwhelmed. I was very overwhelmed by the thought, but the ambition was there. I truly believe that I can make an impact. And after our sessions, I came to a conclusion of achieving joy. After that, now my new life goal, my new purpose, I guess, is to change my world through joyful expression. So changing my mood, changing the mood of the people I'm interacting with by being myself and being true and just being joyful and enjoying the moment. So you helped me kind of break it down into more manageable chunks. And now I have a light that I'm following that's doable. I'm like, how can I live joyfully and change the current world that I'm living in through expression, through being myself? I can have a good time. I can have a great time. I can ask somebody else to have a great time with me. We can bring them along for the ride. So that for me was a biggie because I had a big, huge goal, and we broke it down.
And that's exactly it. It's, and I have no doubt that you will change the world in your own way, but like you can't just, I'm going to change the world. That's like, I'm going to leap up to the top of the mountain.
Right.
Like,
how?
Yeah. Good luck,
Right. Right.
But, you can get to the top of the mountain. You can achieve your goal. And like I said, I have no doubt that you will change the world.
Right.
It's not about that. It's not about letting go of the goal. It's about, doing what's right in front of you. What can I do here? And, like you said, authenticity is a huge thing because that's what we are. Like we are who we are for a reason. And that's what we have to offer. That's why, it's very rare, but every once in a while I'll get negative feedback on a podcast. And it's funny because every time I read the negative feedback, what I'm hearing in my head as I'm reading it is all the reasons that they shouldn't be listening to me. Because they shouldn't be.
Right.
They're like, oh, you should, do clinical research on your topics. It's like, I don't do that.
Me. Yeah.
Sorry. Like if you want somebody that does clinical research on their topics, you should go find somebody that does clinical research on their, but I shouldn't start doing clinical research.
No.
But so they're saying, Glenn, you should do this and you should do that and you should do this. And I'm hearing, I should be listening to somebody else because of this reason, because of this reason, and because of this reason.
Right. Right.
It's like, I'm not supposed to please everybody. My style is not supposed, I laugh at like what people think is tragedies. Well, it's like, because I don't take it that seriously. We work through these things. It's not, I don't laugh at them. It's most of the time, and you do see this in recovery a lot. Maybe this is where I get that's where I get comfortable with it. But like in recovery, you learn to laugh at things because when you identify with them, so if somebody is like, oh my God, like when I was in school, like, the teachers were always, Glenn, stop talking. Glenn, turn around. Glenn, you know what that does to kids' self-esteem? And you're like, yeah, I know exactly what it does to kids' self-esteem. And you're laughing. And from an outside perspective, people like, are they laughing at you? Yeah. No, they're laughing because they identify with what you're saying. So I do that all the time, and some people don't like it. It's like, okay, then that's
not for you.
There's almost 8 billion people on this planet. I can't handle the workload.
No.
So I should not. Not everybody should hire me as their life coach.
Right.
Only the people that the way I say things and my personality, when it clicks and they go, oh, okay, yeah, all right. I get that. I like the way he phrases things. That clicks with me. That's the type of person that should hire me.
Right.
If you're listening to me and you're going, I don't really like this guy. I don't like his personality. I don't like how he phrases things. It doesn't really click with me. Don't hire me, for God's sakes. Go find somebody.
Please don't hire me.
Please. I'm not, well, yeah, it wouldn't last long anyway, but
Right.
But like, please, there's as many paths as there are people. Go find your person.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people that are stuck, like, go listen to podcasts, find your person. There's
Mm-hmm.
free podcasts all over the place.
It's all over.
Yeah, there's so much information out there. It's endless. And what you seek, you will find.
Mm-hmm.
Knock and the door shall be opened.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just put attention energy towards what you're looking for, pops right up.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find it.
What if we don't know who we are or why we're here? What if we just have like, we're stuck, but also we don't know what we're looking for? What advice do you have for people like that?
Well, I think we know ourselves better than we realize we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of it's getting out of your own way. So this is, I like to talk the way we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
And just roll. So like,
Yeah.
I don't like to start pitching people and start saying, hey, you need to go hire a life coach, because it's not the only way. But one of the benefits of a life coach is having another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you get it from a life coach or someplace else, it's important that you get that. One of my favorite quotes is from Einstein. He said, you can't fix a problem with the consciousness that created it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason you're stuck is because you were interacting with life with the information that you had from the perspective that you were functioning from.
Right.
And the culmination of those two things landed you in a spot where you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So to get out of that, you're going to need different information and a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that outside perspective can be helpful. You need to get, that's was one of my pivotal points when I was getting sober. My sponsor looked at me and he said, is there any area of your life that you have not completely destroyed? And I went, no. He's like, you got it all. Yeah. Son's 1,400 miles away. I'm divorced, sold the house, pissed away the money, broke, homeless. My body's literally shutting down. I'm dying, physically dying. I'm emotionally, mentally, and financially bankrupt. I think I got the full Monty,
right?
And he's like, okay. He goes, now, did you destroy every area of your life because you were just trying to destroy every area? So no. He goes, okay. So were you trying to not destroy every area and maybe even do good? Yes. Okay. So would it be fair to say that your best thinking sucks? Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. My best thinking sucks because I put in all this thinking and effort, and this is where I landed. And this place sucks.
Right.
So I'm following your logic here.
Yeah.
It was
making sense.
Yeah, it was not difficult where I was to see that my best thinking sucked. Now that's the gift of that's the gift of desperation. I could see things very clearly because I was in an extreme spot.
Right.
So it's very easy for me to see. But you can take the same mentality and apply it in your life. You don't have to say your best thinking sucks or you can't do anything right like me. You could just say, okay, my best thinking got me stuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Okay, your best thinking got you stuck. That's okay. The reality of it was we were not taught the right way to live life.
Mm.
We're taught math, we're taught English, we're taught history, but we're not taught how to live life. We're not, and it's very simple. Life is very, very simple. And it's very easy to learn. It's not even learning, it's us remembering it. At our core, we already know this stuff.
Right.
So like when I'm teaching people things and they go, oh yeah, that clicked. I go, oh, real? Where did that click? What do you mean? Like, well, where do you feel? Like, do you feel it in your body? Like, yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you don't feel it in your head. No, I feel it in my body. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay. So that's your inner knowing that I just said something that reminded you of something that was already inside of you. Mm-hmm. And now also, so really all we're doing is we're forgetting what we've been taught. We're allowing it to go. We're removing it and allowing our natural way of being, which we already know within us, to bubble back up to the surface. So it's not as hard of a journey as we think it is.
Right.
It's falling back to our natural state.
Yep.
It's just we're brainwashed growing up. We're domesticated, into society's rules. And it's really easy to teach. Like, people think spirituality is woo-woo. And like, I'm a very logical person. One of my favorite things about spirituality is that it's not woo-woo at all. Like, if you look at the way people live life on a consistent basis and you go, does this make sense? It literally does not.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
If you slow down and look at little things that are just accepted by society as the norm, you look at them and you go, this literally makes zero sense.
Right.
And then you look at the spiritual way of doing it and you go, this makes perfect sense. Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew that, that was the reality is woo-woo and spirituality is foundationally logical.
Right. So how do we separate, how do we undomesticate ourselves if we are extremely domesticated people? And, we can see it in our peripheral, we can feel it in our bodies, we can feel the tingling, but we're not necessarily, we're looking for an outside perspective. But how do we connect? If we're feeling hyper, like, because right now I feel hyper domesticated because I'm working from home and it's in here, it's in the space, So how do we, shake it up and connect to that spirituality, the real reality, if we're...
Well, I think it's spiritual disciplines. And, our spiritual disciplines are necessary because, real simply, maybe this is a good example of what we're just talking about. Real logically, like, everybody goes, well, what would you like out of life? I mean, I want to be happy. That's all I want. I want my kids to be happy. I want to be happy. Want to be happy. That's all I want. I want to be happy. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to be happy. And if you say, okay, how much energy have you put towards being happy this week? You go, what do you mean? That's the problem. That's the problem. Everything is energy. Everything. And if you want something to be in your life, you have to feed it energy and it expands. And if you don't want something to be in your life, you don't have to fight it. You don't have to kick it. You don't have to push it out. You just starve it. Just don't give it any energy. And this is logical. It works with everything. Right. Literally. If you don't want a plant anymore, just starve it. Its forms of energy. Don't give it water or sunlight. Right. It will die. If you don't want your pet anymore, don't feed it. Not saying to do this, of course. I love my dog. But it'll run away or something. Yeah. If you don't want to be in a relationship anymore, don't give it any energy. Right. Eventually they'll be gone. Right. So
otherwise you're both stuck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, everything is like that. So if you would like happiness in your life, then you have to put energy towards it. And the beauty of it is that the game is rigged in our favor. Because the universe expands if we expand. Yep. So it wants us to expand. It wants us to be happy because that's us expanding. So it's rigged in our favor. So all we have to do, we don't have to quit our jobs and meditate over a pillow in the Himalayas for 4 hours per day. Right. Like, we have lives to live, but you can take 10 minutes and meditate every morning. You can have a spiritual book going by a different teacher, and just like, and read literally 5 minutes a day, and you can listen to a podcast that has a positive message on your way to work instead of obsessing what you need to do all day. So it's bring in meditation, bring in spiritual food, which another way of saying that is a different perspective. Yep. Bring those things in and
Mm-hmm.
start giving energy towards them, and just little thing, you know, start a gratitude journal.
Yep.
Write 5 things that you're grateful for every
Or
day.
just think about it, you know, even just
Right.
thinking about things that you're grateful for. I know we started doing that in our home when we moved to Texas. It was just at the end of our first night in Texas. We were terrified. You know, we were just dating at the time. We never lived together. We moved across the country and we were both terrified. And, you know, we were like, what are you thankful for? You know, and we
Right.
haven't stopped doing that. And it's been beautiful because we get to, you know, decompress. We get to think about the things that we're grateful for. We say our blessings, whatever, you know, but it's just a way for us to like come back to the world, you know, because you can
Right.
get lost. You can get lost in the computer screens. You can get lost in the internet. You can get lost just walking around aimlessly, you know, so it brings us back for sure. And I think we put a lot of, we as in like the collective we, some of us that aren't feeling connected to spirituality, put a lot of pressure. Like I do have to go to the Himalayas with a pillow, and you know, it has to look like this. It has to look like quiet meditation. And I think I was watching, it's a show on Netflix. It's called Abstract. And it kind of dives into artists and their, you know, their way. It's like a documentary series. And this one woman, she said she was talking to Oprah about meditation. And Oprah's like, you know, they're talking about meditation. And the woman's like, I cannot meditate for the life of me. How do you do it? How do you do with all of these things? And she's looking around at her paintings in her studio. And she said, this is your meditation. You do it every day. This is how you express yourself.
Right.
And for musicians, that's how you meditate. That's how you get it out. You touch your soul, you know? So I feel like we think that it has to look like on the top of Himalayas under a pillow, but it's different for everybody, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just being, you know, it's being connected to our higher self,
Mm-hmm.
to a God, if you believe in that, to stillness. You know, you don't have to have any particular belief. It's just stopping, you know, that there's such a momentum, like an autobiography of a yogi, like Yogananda came over to the United States in like 1920. And one of the things he said about the United States is he said, it's difficult to teach people spirituality over there because they're going so fast. It's difficult to slow them down and stop them enough so they can actually hear the spiritual messages. And that was 100 years ago. We're going about 300 times faster.
Right.
So there's a momentum to our lives. And I think one of the biggest keys is stopping that momentum. And then it starts going again. So like if you just take a conscious breath, if you just, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And if you pay attention, there's a pleasurable sensation in your chest. Because you just did something. Not only did you come back to the present moment and to that space of stillness within you, but you also did something that was beneficial for your body. And whenever we do anything that's beneficial in any way, there's a system that's designed that we receive positive feedback. So you took in oxygen that your body needed. Right. And you felt pleasure because of it. Now, usually we're moving way too quick to even notice that, but it's just an example. So like if it's meditating, especially for long periods, really isn't, especially for beginners, it's absurd to even try it. But it's not important. Just that conscious breath, just coming back to the present moment breaks that momentum, because most people, their wheel has been spinning and building momentum for literally years. Right. And it's going, and then all of a sudden you go, stop. And it goes, what? Just stop. I don't even know how.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like,
what does that mean? You're too far gone. Yeah.
You know, like, I don't even know stop. What do you mean stop? I don't know how to stop. What do you stop? Why do we stop? And is there an emergency? What's going, like, you know, like, there's just so much going on. Yeah. That you have no chance. So what happens is if you just stop consistently throughout your day with one conscious breath, or just, I'm going to sit here for 30 seconds and just be still. Just it breaks that momentum. And then what happens is basically the momentum only builds up so much. It hasn't been building over years. So then you go, hey, stop. And it goes, sure. You go, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, stop. Thank you. You regain control over your own inner energy. And what's happening in it, you know? And then it's amazing when after you do it for a little while, like I've been, I remember like 15 years ago, I was sitting there and like something happened. I don't remember the specifics, but something happened that would have normally, well, it did trigger me. Like something happened and it triggered me. And I was a nut job when I was younger. I mean, serious bouts of uncontrollable, whacked out rage. And I mean, I was a nut job, man, when I was young. So like normally there's no way if I was triggered, I'd be able to control myself.
Right.
And I got triggered hardcore and I saw it and I went, Glenn, hold on, just stop for a minute. And I just went, boo. And my energy just chilled right out and I was immediately centered in like 2 seconds. And I went, what the hell did I just do?
Who am I?
Yeah, I was like, how did I do that? You know?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. But that's a benefit from meditating consistently or stopping consistently. You know, and like you said, meditation can be petting your dog. It could be going for a walk. It could be anything. But just doing those practices consistently, not only do you get the benefit of the moments while you're doing them, but it also gets you back in control of yourself. And you're more even keeled throughout your day. And if you do get triggered, you can bring yourself back to center a lot easier. And that is, it's just taking life from going like this and it's making it go like this.
Yeah.
Which is much more manageable.
Yeah, definitely much more manageable. That's awesome. I love this. We are at 8 minutes. That was like,
wow.
Flew right by.
It did.
It always does. I'm always like shocked. I'm like, there's never a time where I'm like, oh my God, 30 minutes to go. Can you go? Can you? No, it's never like that. This is always great. I'm having an amazing time. I hope that the people out there are having an amazing time. I want to know what advice you want to leave the people with and maybe like a life motto. So what do you want to leave the people with and what's your life motto?
Hold on, I'm gonna have to think about the life motto.
Yeah,
I think really what I'd like to leave people with, especially right now with all this indecision, and I know people are going to be probably watching and listening to this at different times, but there is so much going on in the world right now, and I mean, right now we're waiting to find out who's elected president, so it's very appropriate. But there's, hey man, we're we're in a stage of life where a lot of change is happening in this world. So there's going to be other times that you can apply this to. So I think the biggest thing is really like there's a lot of people that have some sort of level of faith or trust. And it could be in a God, it could be in a particular religion, spiritual principles. It could be just the fact that the universe wants to expand and we are parts of that universe. So there, by proxy, it behooves the universe to support us in our own expansion. So, whatever. But like most people believe in some sort of intelligence that's making things go. And I think that we need to have some level of hope in something like that. And it's the chaos theory.
Yep.
So when we're standing too close, nothing makes sense. So maybe this is my life motto. It's perspective. What I do is I constantly take steps back to gain perspective. Way back. And I'm impatient. So I go way, way, way back, to like where I pretend I'm looking at the world through God's eyes. And I just go, okay, like what's going to make sense? How can I make sense of this? So like for me, and I'll try to be quick, for me, I really learned this on the deepest level when I went to get custody for my son. years ago. And I was very fearful. I had been through 10-ish years of family court, having my ass handed to me, things not going well. And now all of a sudden I'm going to take a child away from his mother, which they don't like. And she does not have a drug problem. And there's no real signs of physical abuse. How the hell am I going to pull this off? Right. You know, so I had to get clear that I couldn't function from fear. I was giving my power away to the court system. I was giving my power away to my ex-wife, what she might do, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I need to anchor myself and give my power where it belongs. And I give my power to the universe, to God, to whatever. And I trust that that is more powerful than the Rhode Island court system, or than my ex-wife, or a person in an elected office. They are not the most powerful thing in the universe. They don't control my destiny. We search for safety because we're supposed to feel it, but it's not in this realm. The safety we seek is in the spiritual realm. So if we anchor into we're a spiritual being having a human experience. If we anchor and find our safety as a spiritual being, and know that we're eternal, know that we are loved, know that we are cared for, we anchor into the safety of that, then we go out, interact with the world from that seat of safety. Now all of a sudden things are a lot more manageable.
I like it. I feel like I needed that, because I have my own fears that are bubbling now, but just to
everybody does.
Just take 6 feet. At least
6 feet. I take 6,000 feet.
Yes, exactly. To each his own. However many feet. I get it though. I think this is timely, and I think it's important, and your message is amazing. And I'm so thankful and grateful that you decided to come on my little social media interviewing show. And I'm grateful to have you. I always learn a boatload every time I listen to you speak. So first and foremost, thank you. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. I appreciate you too. And as soon as I saw you doing this show, I was like, I want to get on that because I know you. And your personality is phenomenal, and your authenticity is out of the world. So I love this stuff. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here as your guest. So thank you.
Thank you. So tell everybody where they can find you.
Easiest thing, Glenn Ambrose. Google Glenn Ambrose. I'm everywhere. GlennAmbrose.com. I made it real complicated. It's Glenn with 2 N's.
Super complicated. 2 N's.
2 N's. Glenn with 2 N's. Ambrose.com. And all my stuff's there. You can find my book on Amazon, and my podcasts are all the links to it on all the different platforms are there. And I've got programs coming up, and there's always so much going on in this business. There's just so many opportunities to help other people. It's like, like you can't, there's movement. So it's like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do it's I have to talk myself out of doing stuff.
Yep. That's a good problem to have. I love it. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for joining us on Mentor Me. Everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Sweet. I am the Creative Fairy Godmother, and you can catch us every week live on now Facebook and YouTube, thanks to Glenn's suggestion on StreamYard. We're going to be talking to amazing people doing really dope stuff. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.